G'day, Melbourne. At least I hope this is Melbourne, because I've had the most kindly reception all over Australia. So I'm going to start off with another prayer. God bless Australia. It's always an honour to be introduced by someone as immensely distinguished as Professor Ian Plimer. He is one of the world's foremost rock jocks. He can tell you more about what went on in the past than is good for him. But his book, Heaven and Earth, is on sale outside after this talk at an extremely unreasonable price, so buy several. And he kindly introduced me in his Australian accent as the Viscount Monckton. And what an improvement that is on when I'm introduced in Scotland, where because of the peculiarities of my native accent, it comes out as the vacant Monckton. Now, how many climate skeptics does it take to change a light bulb? Answer, none. It's far too early to say whether it needs changing. But we are faced with an interesting problem today, manufactured by the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. Now, if that Intergovernmental Panel were to call a spade, it wouldn't, because it doesn't do simple. Instead, it would call it a one-person operated, manually controlled, foot-powered implement of simple and robust yet adequately efficacious lignometallic composition, designated primarily, though by no means exclusively, for utilization on the part of hourly paid operatives deployed in the agricultural, horticultural or constructional trades or industries, as the case may be, for purposes of carrying out such excavational tasks or duties as may, from time to time, be designated by supervisory grades as being necessary, desirable, expedient, apposite, or germane, with regard to the ongoing furtherance of the task or objective in hand, or, on the other hand, underfoot, Secretary-General. And that, by the way, is what they were talking about, a spade. Now, I want to start with a little bit of lessons in global warming. This is a brief history of global warming. And what it demonstrates is a point which Ian Plimer kindly mentioned, which is that there has been global warming for 300 years. And it is agreed among all parties that for 270 of those 300 years, we, humankind, cannot have had anything measurable to do with it. So you're looking at the last extremely blue, skimpy one, right on the right. That's the only bit that we could have influenced, and I think that the gentleman in this room would say that's a darn good thing. Now, a couple of preliminary scientific points. First of all, the mere fact that warming has occurred does not tell us anything about what caused the warming. I've seen presentation after presentation by the bedwetters saying that there has been warming and therefore carbon dioxide is to blame. That's the old-fashioned Aristotelian fallacy of the argumentum ad ignorantiam, the argument from ignorance. We don't know what is causing the warming, so let's blame it on CO2 because that's where we get nice big grants. Now, of course, what could be causing the warming, as you see here, is Al Gore with his flamethrower on the Greenland ice sheet. Likewise, correlation need not imply causation. Just because CO2 has been going up recently and temperature has been going up recently doesn't mean the two are connected in any way. And to indicate this, I have found a most interesting climatological result. I've correlated the number of Republican senators in the upper house of the United States legislature against sunspot numbers. And it's an extremely good fit because just recently there was an election in the United States, very few Republican senators and no sunspots at all. It works. And finally, one of the things that the other side in this debate tends to do is to produce the most alarming projections. I mean, Al Gore with his 20-foot sea level rise, that would be 610 centimetres in your money. And here is what would have happened to the Houses of Parliament if we were lucky enough to get a 20-foot sea level rise. To which my reply is, and your problem is? Most of my compatriots would happily see the Houses of Parliament washed away altogether. Now, a horse goes into a bar, and the barman says, "Why the long face?" "Because it's a horse, you idiot." Now, that's an obvious point. And one of the striking things about everything that I'm going to say to you today is that actually, when you look at it and think about it a little, you will find it blindingly obvious. And one of the cunning things that those on the other side have said, the climate extremists have said, they've managed to succeed in making it look as though the obvious is absurd and the absurd is obvious. And what we're going to do is to say, actually, no, the obvious is obvious, and we're going to stick with the obvious and leave the bedwetters with the absurd. Now, one final preliminary point before we get into a bit of real work here, and that is, do not believe a word I say. Science is not a belief system. Everything I say, I can and will, on request, verify, either in the data or with equations or in the peer-reviewed literature. So I will tell you where I got it from and how I got it. I'm very happy to answer any questions like that. But don't simply believe me when I draw various conclusions, because the other side expect you to believe them. They say the debate is over, the science is settled, you can't argue, you've just got to believe and obey and pay and pay and pay again. And I say no. I say don't believe me, don't believe them, check it out. And all I'm trying to do to you today is not to convince you of any point of view, because I don't need to. And now I'm going to demonstrate that. Hands up, all those who believe that even in theory, global warming could prove to be a global crisis. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. About 10 out of 1,000. Or 1%, as we scientists call it. Now, what are we to make of that? Well, frankly, that's the end of my talk. I don't need to say anything more. However, let's go through this so that the 10 who have come here and have quite rightly and quite courageously said that they do not think that they do not think I'm right, that global warming is not a global crisis. Let's just go through the arguments, but begin by saying why the truth matters. And that's why I was so grateful when Father Tattersall was willing to start us with the Our Father, because one of the things we need to remember is that there is a moral dimension to this debate. And the truth has a life of its own. And what we are looking for here, and what I am striving for here, is to reach the truth. I am not here to do propaganda of any kind. I am here to try to explore with you where the truth might lie in the 3 areas that Ian Plimer has outlined: the economics, the science, and the morality of the debate about whether global warming is a global crisis.